Yeah, my name is Armando Geneyro, and I'm a photographer based out of Denver. Yeah.
Hey everybody, you're listening to episode 2 of Denver Cyphers. Quick note from the editor here, that's me. um, all of these episodes, these first 4 episodes for the first part of season 1, have all been recorded long before this COVID 19 outbreak really, took over the news headlines and all of that. So it's the biggest reason why we're not having any more episodes until this thing kind of settles down and passes, just to keep everyone's well being and health in mind. So with that being said, let's hop into episode 2 of Denver Cyphers. Was photography like something like, oh, I've always wanted to do this, or you kind of just stumbled into it?
Um, I guess I just kind of stumbled into it like when I was younger, when I was like, old enough to like hold a camera, I guess, like 8 or 9. Um, I, I always there's always cameras around. Like my parents always had cameras, little point and shoots or like disposables, and so we had a pretty big family, like extended family, so we had always like people visiting from outside the country. There was always like, you know, family dinners and vacations and just our family just loved to get together. And so I was always kind of comfortable like taking photos of my family whenever they're like, yo, let's everybody get together and take a photo. Um, and so that kind of like traveled with me through like high school and like my time in the military and then even like a little bit after, like I always had a camera. I was always like just documenting what was going on, like parties and whatnot. Um, but then I never really like considered that I could make a career out of it, I guess. Until about 7 years ago, 6 years ago, when DJ Loki from The Solution reached out and kind of was seeing my photography on through Instagram, like when Instagram was like barely starting to pop off. And he just reached out and was like, "Hey, I need a photographer for my party. Would you be down to to come shoot it?" And I really didn't have like a professional camera at the time. I was just using. I think at the time I was using my iPhone. Um, and I had like a little point and shoot, but it wasn't like a professional camera. You know what I'm saying? So he kind of like convinced me to buy one. Ended up buying one, and yeah, man, I shot the solution for almost 6 years, like every Friday night, damn near, until we stopped doing the solution like around this time last year. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of a crazy like run of Fridays, like for that long, just like documenting like one spot for that that amount of time was kind of cool.
So it was like, because I think it was Instagram where I started seeing like the goodness and solution stuff, or the solution and goodness.
Right.
And that I would normally, like, usually the next day, I would always be like, what's the photo recap gonna be?
Oh yeah.
Because you were doing that stuff, and that's how I came seeing your stuff, and like,
Yeah, every now
I
and
like
then
his stuff.
it was fun, man, because every now and then you'd be like, you get like different waves of like crowds. You had the regulars, but even the regulars would always change. You know, and then you'd have the people that were there for like damn near every Friday for 6 years. Um, and the same thing with like the employees there. And Metal Life was just a fun place to party, man. It was a good time. And then yeah, I mean from there, it's just like just met different people. Obviously. Was able to score different gigs. So yeah, man, it's kind of a crazy time.
So how did How did you go from the solution, like every Friday nights, to like having a photo at Denver International Airport?
um,
'Cause it seems like the past, at least since I've been following you, it seems like things have just been getting better and better for you, which is dope.
yeah, thank you.
But
Um, I think I think it was kind of like it was around the time that I started at the solution that I was finishing my time at Metro State. I was taking advantage of the GI Bill that I got in the military. So I was going to school for free and I was about to graduate. And so I was taking my electives. And one of the electives that I took was a photojournalism class. And I guess like going through that class, I kind of it kind of really gave my photography like a direction. Like I guess photojournalism was something that I had always done, but like not really conscious about it. Um, like I was documenting like my family. Like that's anybody that takes photos of their family is like that's what they're doing. It's like documenting their family, documenting where they come from. Um, and so when I took that class, it really opened my eyes to like being able to tell other people's stories that weren't necessarily like my immediate circle. Um, and so it was kind of a challenge because I think I'm like naturally an introvert. You know what I'm saying? I don't really I'm kind of a shy person deep down. So like it takes a lot for me to like go up to people like and introduce myself and unless I'm like drunk or whatever like if I'm but if I'm like it just that's not how I am naturally. Um, and so that class was a little bit challenging at first, just like it had to break me out of that shell because they wanted you to like go out and find a story. Um, and so, and then a lot of times people would like interview their friends or whatever, and like the teacher was able to tell like, hey, that's like your homie or whatever. And so yeah, so it was challenging that way, and then like I said, going out and finding stories that are interesting. Um, and so yeah, I took that class, and then I think I graduated after that semester, and like I had just bought this new camera and started working at the solution. It kind of forced me to like be a little bit more open to like because when you're at the solution at a party, you don't know everybody, so you got to like ask people for these photos. Um, and so that experience and solution in that class, I think it kind of just like propelled me into like going into the streets and meeting new people. Um, and then eventually, like, I guess to bring it full circle with the photo that's at Denver now, I really enjoy like going out and shooting like different cultural events. Um, and that photo specifically, the one that's at the airport, is the scene of these five little black kids playing in front of a building during the Juneteenth festival in Five Points, and that building is actually not even there anymore. That I took that photo last year, and it's already been knocked down. Yeah, it was like this little strip of buildings right next to the Rossonian, the hotel, right there, like literally, 27th and Walton. Um, and so that building isn't there anymore. It's just like I think when I took it, I didn't realize what I had captured. Um, and then once I submitted that photo, and I saw what other photos made that exhibit at the airport. I realized that mine was the only photo that contained uh, black people in it. Yeah, there's like another photo that has this little like Mexican girl like dancing during Cinco de Mayo, and I think those might be the only two photos of with people of color in the like 35 photo exhibit.
See, I'm surprised, but at the same time, I'm not because that seems
Right?
representative
Yeah.
of Denver right now.
Right, right. So then like seeing that, and then realizing that that building had been knocked down, um, I realized that this is like, um, a moment in time in history for this neighborhood. Um, it's 5 points, the whole east side, the north side, west side of Denver have all been changing and gentrifying over these last few years, if not longer. Um, but it seems like the city hits these different milestones or landmarks, and um, these changes just like start developing like exponentially. And so I think in the next 5 years, like the growth is going to be even tenfold from what we've seen already.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's almost like a coded language today, because like if you say like north side, you say 5 points.
right. A lot of people are like,
What's
what?
that? Where are you going?
For sure.
Although I kind of appreciate that at the same time, because like I grew up um, kind of between Adams County and North Denver,
Okay.
and so a lot of times like I'll run into people, whether it's in an Uber, whether it's at a concert, and they'll be like, "Oh, I just love the Highlands," or like Lodo, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep be in this space right now. I'm gonna go over here.
Like where exactly? Because there's like, you talking about like unincorporated, the unincorporated part of Denver? Because
Yeah.
there's that spot like in between, like you said, North Denver and Adams County, which is like unincorporated. It's technically Denver, but
Oh yeah, I've always
technically
called
not.
that like I always think of it as like Game of Thrones, like we're at the wall, and
Okay.
like to the north of us is Westminster, and those are the wildlings of suburbia. And
And speaking of foreign language speaks, I've never seen Game of Thrones.
okay, so basically, I call it the wall because it's like that's suburbia, and
Yeah,
like where I live in South,
yeah,
between where I live and downtown is like Denver, what I know of like North Denver. So I
right.
grew up 72nd and Pecos, and then I also spent some time around 43rd and Tejon.
Okay,
So
yeah.
kind of in between those areas.
72nd and Pecos especially is like, it's like my fiance grew up 54th and Lowell.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there's just like that weird like little area
Mhm.
that isn't technically Denver, but technically it is.
Because nobody's gonna be like, I'm from Adams County. Like
Right.
nobody knows what Adams County
Word,
is.
I heard that.
Yeah. Um, but another thing I always like to ask people, just because I feel like we always talk about like what always is like worked out, or like all these successes, these different milestones, which is always great. But what was like maybe your biggest or like your first like slip up, or like, oh, I shouldn't do that anymore when I'm trying to, get better at photography and
That's a good question. Um,
so I know when I started doing these interviews a few years back, like I don't really talk a lot. I'm introverted as well,
yeah.
but I would talk too much. I'd like lead them down what answer not what even what I thought they wanted to say, but I would just like lead them.
Like, give me an example. Like, I'm gonna interview you now. Like, give me an example. Because like,
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time thinking if I really had that moment in photography. Like, it's funny because we were just talking before we started recording. We were talking about Samir,
Right.
and so um, I have actually done a song with Samir.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
this is back with like getting into like when I used to like spit, and
That's dope.
a lot of people don't know. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. And it's been like maybe 7 years.
Is it like a private SoundCloud link that hasn't been published?
It's not even, it's like before SoundCloud was really a thing. This is like back when Bandcamp was like a thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
There you go.
and so well, you can't even find it now
Oh.
because I think I stopped paying on that link, so that thing is disabled. But it was a dope song. Like it had a Cure from Immortal Techniques camp
Okay.
on the song, and like yeah, man, it was like
Almost sounds like a posse cut.
it was a possible it had Molina on it. I don't know if you know Molina here
Yeah.
from here in Denver,
Yeah.
and actually Samir on that track spits in French, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, that's
So
dope.
yeah, so I don't like I said I don't know if I've had that moment in photography, but I definitely had that moment in music where I was like, yeah, I don't know, I don't think this is for me. I don't think it's like my type of, even though where I'm at in Denver, like a lot of that there's a lot of overlap. I still know a lot of the musicians and like MCs, DJs, like breakdancers and all that. Um, for music specifically, I just don't think that shit was for me. Um, so I think I had that moment when I was doing music. Yeah. What about you though? Like, what was like your moment when you're like, I shouldn't be doing this? This is like specific thing or whatever.
Mine's similar in that it's not like a specific moment, but it's like when I was because I went to journalism. I did a master's in journalism up at CU Boulder,
Okay.
and my interviewing. I mean, I don't know if it's gotten any better, but I just know when I started, like, I asked a lot of questions, and then like, because I feel like if you let something sit for a moment, if you let a moment just breathe, like people will feel either uncomfortable or they're thinking about what to say.
Sure.
And I didn't do that. I would just be like, okay, so what do you think about so and so? And they'd answer. Then I'd be like, okay, how about this? How
Okay.
about this? How about that? I would
Okay.
pepper them with questions.
Right.
And I'm trying to be like, let the moment breathe, let them think.
For sure.
Because if you don't do that, then you're not gonna get as much of an organic answer. I feel like,
I feel that.
yeah, like I'd rather have somebody like think about something instead of me just trying to be like, all right, I need these 5 questions answered so I can go make my deadline and write this article or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I've definitely sat in interviews like that where they had their questions. It was like going from one to the other, and there wasn't much like substance in between. I guess I don't know. Like I'm not I I'm not an interviewer, so I guess I don't really know what the best ways to go about it would be. But I definitely feel what you're saying because if you let stuff like flow naturally, and maybe like you come up to to your next question without even thinking about it. It's like it leads naturally. It just I guess it lends for a better like conversation. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like that almost kind of might be similar to photography in terms of like if you kind of just like sit in whatever you're at, an event, a concert,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and you kind of just crowd watch, maybe
Right.
then like a moment will pop up for you,
Yeah.
as opposed to you just being like snap, 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 snap.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I could walk into I have a gig tonight actually, at Ophelia's. But like I could easily walk into a party and just start going up to people. Like, hey, let me take your photo. Hey, let me take your photo. But I definitely like to see the crowd unfold. Um, obviously, like when you're at parties, the more alcohol that people drink, the more open they are to having their photo taken and have this flash in their face. Um, but yeah, I definitely like to see it unfold, to see who's like most outgoing. You start with them, um, and then you kind of like you see other people like notice you and like either they're call over for you or they're just like you just kind of feel that energy. Um, and I'm a big energy guy. Like if I'm in the streets shooting, if I get a certain vibe from a random person, then I either won't or will go up to them. Um, it's just all about how they see you, how you feel, how you perceive how they see you. Um, so yeah, so it's like it's different, but it's really the same, man. It's like I try to take that experience that I've you know learned in the nightlife scene. I try to take that into the streets and kind of like build around it.
Have you had much? I'm sure you've probably traveled some. Have you had a chance to like travel and like do your photography stuff on the road?
Well, I've definitely traveled and shot like in the streets. I don't have a whole lot of. I haven't shot a whole lot of like nightlife stuff in other cities. Um, then again, I don't know if I necessarily would want to. I guess I haven't really thought about it. I never really. It's not something that I really pursue. Um, like if I get hired to do a gig like out of state, then I'll do it. Um, like a wedding or whatever. Um, but I haven't really like pursued nightlife type stuff. And, I'm getting older and like about to get married, and um, the nightlife gigs are kind of like getting a little bit farther in between. But I kind of like it like that, man. To be honest, like after doing it for 6 years every Friday, and in the summertime every Sunday, um, I got kind of burnt out. So it's been nice, like over this last year, to have Fridays off, chill with the fam. Um, I'm a big basketball guy, so I've been able to just like watch basketball at home and chill. Um, but yeah, like I said, I have been able to shoot in the streets, and like I went to Cuba, went to Spain, and you could tell like even just between those two countries, like in Cuba, they're a lot more inviting. They're a lot more um, welcoming to people, like to tourists and like people with the camera. They're like more curious about you. Um, but in Spain, man, they're fucking rude.
Really?
Yeah, bro. They don't like motherfuckers with cameras, bro. Homie tried to snatch my camera one time. I took a photo of him, and he like made me delete it. I was like, shit, I'm not in, I'm not in Colorado anymore.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's different, man. It's different.
Have you had anybody like you take their photo and they're like, all right, pay me. Can I pay you?
mm, I'm trying to think, like specifically here in Colorado. I think it's happened a couple times where motherfuckers try to like get you to pay them. Um, and usually it's just me being selfish. Like usually I won't. I'll delete the photo,
Yeah.
or if I know the photo wasn't that great, I'll just be like, I'm not gonna, it just wasn't. But there's been like portraits that I really wanted to get, and there's the subject was like, I mean, if you got some change you can give me, I'll let you take my portrait. And I just thought the person was so interesting, had such an interesting look or interesting vibe that I would then, I would pay them, couple dollars or whatever I had, I usually don't try not to carry cash with me, but um, yeah, here in Colorado it's happening. In LA it's happened a couple times, I guess. Um, but like that's one thing about like that's really why I like shooting cultural events, because people expect to like get their photo taken at these type of events. Um, I go to Chicano Park. I've gone to Chicano Park in San Diego the last 2 years. I'm going in again in April, and they hold a big festival, like a big low rider festival out there. And so people are there to show off their cars. People are there to show off their lifestyle and their culture. And you know, being a brown photographer, it's easy to get in there and relate to them, and they see you with the camera like another brown person. They're like, yo, take my picture. And or it's nothing to just to go walk up to them and to like ask them to interact with them. um,
As I'm sure it comes off as like you're documenting as opposed to like you're a cultural tourist. Like if you
exactly
were a white dude or something like
exactly
that. So,
exactly for sure. And even in places like Juneteenth festival, man. um, you know I I it's I can relate to people. It's nothing to relate to people. They see it's a primarily black festival, but they're inviting for everybody to come in, to come and experience certain aspects of black culture. And so you go in there with like, you don't go in there like with the attitude that you should let me photograph you, or you go in there with like tr- open to learn and with respect, and people feel that. I think as opposed to people that go in there, like you said, like a cultural tourist, and I don't know, try to take advantage of something, a situation.
one thing I've also kind of wondered, kind of a non sequitur a bit, but so I've done like video gigs. I don't really do much photography because I feel like that's I'm not ready to put time into that. Like I'm just so used to capturing events as opposed to
Sure.
moments is how I kind of look at it.
Hmm.
Was like, so you were at the Solution. Did that start as a paid gig? I always wonder that because like I'm not trying to like, oh, I'm trying to make all this money off of videography. But like, how did you start getting paid for stuff? Did it just start from when you started there, or like?
Yeah. So like, um, when Loki approached me, he was like, "I'm gonna pay you this certain amount. Um, I'm not gonna disclose how much it was,
Oh yeah, I don't care
but
about
but no, it was definitely an amount that I would look at back now and be like, yo, that wasn't anything. But he was like, I'll get you this amount. You can have a bar tab, and you'll take photos. And it didn't take long for us to like build out what the expectations would be from me every week, as far as like how many photos, what kind of photos, yada yada. And then slowly but surely, it turned into an amount that I was like really comfortable with. Um, and then obviously from there, um, booking other gigs, meeting other people, taking that experience that I had from Solution, Goodness, and stuff like that, I was able to charge even more. Um, because yeah, like Loki, I mean Loki's the homie. Without him, really, I don't think I'd have the career that I would have where I'm at right now. And he really like challenged me, challenged my photography, um, just challenged like the way I approached it. And so, he gets the homie hookup, he gets the homie discount rate. You know what I'm saying? But like when I do weddings, or when some people like people have approached me to do gigs at a weekly, or at a nightclub, and I'll be like, hey, this is how much it's gonna be, and they're like, no, we can't afford that. I'm like, go somewhere else, because I'm not gonna do it then. It's got to be worth it. Like I said, I'm not huge into like going out and partying, but if it's like for the homie, I'll do it. Or if it's like if the price is right, because it's a lot of work, man. It's like being out late, and then a few hours of editing the next day, having to look through, having to like kind of relive that whole party all over again. It's a lot of work. So yeah,
So you
it's
kind of just started with you set the expectations
as far as
after like the Solution in terms of
yeah,
compensation.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you run it? Have you? I'm sure you probably have, but have when you was like now as opposed to when you started, has the number of people being like, "Oh, it'll be great exposure" decreased? You know how that goes when people are like, "It's exposure for
Yeah,
you."
right. Mm, but I really haven't had anybody approach me like that in a while,
Yeah,
which is good. Um, but there have been times recently where like I've had friends kind of make the introduction to somebody that was looking for a photographer, and then I'll reach out to them, and they'll be like, "Well, this is what we have to offer," and I'll be like, "Oh, well, good luck finding somebody else that'll do it for that." Um, and it's never like I'm never trying to be a dick or an asshole. Like I really want you to have a good photographer. Like I really want you to get great photographs of your party, great coverage. Um, you know, I'll refer other people that I think would do it for, might be able to do it for a lower price. But yeah.
another thing I was like asking people, because like you've done a lot lately, but like where do you like? I guess it's a two-parter. Like, what do you want to do,
Hmm.
and where do you kind of feel like you see it like naturally growing? Because those could be drastically different, or they could be right next to each
So
other. So
yeah, man, I guess I see myself doing a couple different things. Like I've been working documenting a lot of lowrider culture here in Denver for the last, 5 years. I have so much content, so many photos, um, thousands. And I want to create a book. So, like, currently I'm working on a book um, that kind of highlights Denver, but specifically Denver lowrider culture. Um, it's gonna touch on, it's gonna be an ode to Denver. But like I said, specifically the lowrider culture within it, who's been super gracious and like allowed me to like enter a lot of their lives and a lot of their homes, um, and to allow me to like document um, their lifestyle. I grew up, in love and infatuated with lowrider culture. Like from all the lowrider arte magazines to just like the regular lowrider magazines. I would always build my perfect lowrider bike. I'm the son of like Colombian and Argentine immigrants. I was born here in LA, and they were real strict. They're real strict. So like, strict Catholics, and so they tried their hardest to like shelter me from certain things. But growing up in the '90s around in California, around nothing but like Chicano Americans, that's like what I saw. That's what I knew. There wasn't a whole lot of kids like me, so that's what I gravitated towards. Um, and so, and then even like with hip hop, like my parents tried to like, they were like, "Yo,
It's the devil's music.
yeah, of course, yeah, that's exactly it." They were like, "Yo, you can only listen to Spanish music," and I was like, "Yeah." Me naturally rebelling against my parents at that age, was like, no, I'm gonna listen to hip hop, and so that kind of like just stuck with me into my adulthood life. Is like, and so even with my photography, like these are like the cultures that kind of shape me, and so I just kind of now that I'm no longer living in California, I'm living here, and I have my roots here now. Um, just kind of like paying homage to those cultures here in Denver and Colorado, because a lot of people have these misconceptions of what Colorado is, what Denver specifically is. Um, we're talking about the photos at the airport. Like, there's more than mountain goats and sand dunes and like rodeos and shit. There's a lot of like other culture out here that gets kind of swept under the rug. Um, you'll hear my friend Juan Fuentes talk about it a lot. He talks about the digital gentrification of Denver and how like the algorithm doesn't really show you anything else but breweries and hiking and yoga studios here in Denver and like, street art now. Um, but it doesn't really show you like the legendary graffiti artists that came up through Denver that like grinded and got up and really built the culture out here that led to like stuff like Rhino being formed, like Colorado Crush and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, man. So I'm working on that book, um, and eventually, I think I would like to do multiple books, but legacy takes a lifetime to build. So I'm still pretty young. I think I want to, eventually have a space where I can showcase art. I don't have to go searching for venues every time I want to do an exhibit. I can't have something that's our own, that's like they shooting. Um, so yeah, like currently I work for DPS for Denver Public Schools, and I do the photography thing full time as well on the side. Um, but yeah, eventually I'd like to just do photography. Um, and I'm also big into basketball. I'd love to score a gig, fucking taking photos in Nuggets games. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Lakers fan at heart, but
Yeah, I see that on Instagram.
yeah, man. Oh man, don't follow me on Twitter because I'm talking mad shit, especially this season.
Yeah.
We're doing good, but
That's good
we play on Tuesday. Should be a good game.
Yeah, I wish I was going to that.
Yeah, I'm going to that Freddie Gibbs concert. You going?
Nah, I got work.
Uh,
But yeah, either one of those sound better than work.
Yeah.
What was oh, so it kind of feels like the natural progression for you is like, so you're documentary, you're very much into documenting. So it's going from the photos to books. And that seems kind of natural. Do you think, or what do you think would be like a step after that? I know that's
Probably,
asking down the
yeah,
road.
yeah. Nah, man, probably like video.
Yeah.
Um, I think I'm inspired a lot, especially now that I watched The Irishman a couple times in this last week and a half. Um, I would love to get into video eventually and create. I don't know if documentaries or like short films, but I would just love to challenge myself in a different way. Um, Even maybe just like being a cinematographer, like just the way stuff is shot. I really think I would have fun with that. Um, I think editing video is a lot harder.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
feel the opposite because I edit videos,
okay.
and to me, at like Photoshop, to me it's almost the devil still. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, Premiere's so easy. So I don't. Is it like the opposite for you?
Well, I don't know, man, because like I've edited video before, but nothing, just like promo videos for like events and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like fucking around with like transitions and fonts and like creating like stuff to match like sync up with music. Just simple stuff, but um, to create like videos of like imagery that moves and I think would be challenging. I don't use Photoshop a lot. Like I don't do a whole lot of editing when it comes to my photography. If anything, I use Lightroom more than anything, just to like kind of balance out colors and whatnot.
That's a foreign concept. I've never used that.
Okay, right on. Yeah,
So.
yeah, yeah. So like to me, I think I have my workflow pretty much down to where definitely not saying that I've learned everything that I've been able to learn, but I've like mastered a certain kind of workflow when it comes to editing photos, I think. Um, but I want to be challenged in a different way, and I think editing video like on a mass scale, just because you're seeing that same part over and over and over again, I think would get tedious to me real quick. But I don't know. I haven't really like I said, I really haven't made that leap into video just yet. I'm like thinking about getting a new body, a new camera. I currently shoot with a Sony A7R, but there's already this A7R4 that's out, and so it's like $3,500 though.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all pretty expensive to do. I have a Sony RX10. That's all I have.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't know if I can afford anything
Oh man, it's
else.
an expensive hobby, man. It's an expensive hobby. Um, but yeah, man, I don't know. Like, there's so many things I think I would be um, open to in the future. It's all about opportunity and what comes by at the right time, and also like it's a balance because like also like seizing certain things that you may not feel you are ready for, but it's I don't know. It's all about timing, you know. Like people have asked me, like, "Oh, have you ever thought about working for like, you know, Nine News or any one of these media outlets here in Denver?" And like, I've sure thought about it, but like, I don't want to put myself in a position um, where a certain channel's status quo is put on my shoulders. Like, hey, this is the stories that we want you to shoot. You know, just this type of stuff. I'm like, no, I'm gonna shoot the stories that I want to shoot. Um,
Yeah, the creative controls.
yeah, it's the most important thing to me when it comes to my photography is to be able to tell my own stories, to control my own narratives, and not having that pressure from outside influences to tell you what to do. But
Yeah, because then it's not your story
Yeah. I'm sure the experience I would gain there would be invaluable, but you know, I, I also, that's why I also didn't spend a lot of time in the military, man. I had to get out. I really just don't like people telling me what to do, you know. I've always had a problem with authority, so that's just like, that's another story for another podcast, I think.
I feel you. Do you have anything that's like coming up here pretty soon that you want to promo, or like in 2020? Because this will probably not be out for a month or so.
2020. I mean, just watch out for my book. I think 2020 is definitely. I'm aiming for summer 2020, and that'll come fast. That's like 6 months away. Um, so probably like later summer. Um, um, we always do like a Cinco de Mayo party. Um, kind of pay homage to different parts of Denver. Um, let's see. I don't think I think that's probably it for now for 2020. Um, definitely keep an eye out for the book because I'm like finalizing like a couple different shoots. I think for the most part I have most of the photos, but I kind of want to focus like before I start putting the book together. I want to focus a little bit on these individual stories. Like I have a lot of candid stuff from over the years. I have a lot of like big group shots, a lot of big car clubs, like big ass group photos of a lot of people. Um, but I've been recently going out to different people's homes and garages and like shooting with them individually in their garage with their cars, getting these individual portraits and spending time with the families. And um, I think it's important to tie it all together because like I do have a certain I think knack for storytelling, even just like the written word. And so I really want that to be a part of the book. Um, I don't want it to just be all photos and hardly any kind of like commentary. I really want to speak um, in my voice and kind of like touch on the stories that impacted me as well. So definitely the book. I have a working title. I won't share it just yet. Uh, but yeah, so definitely keep an eye out for the book and Day Shooting is always putting on different events. So I don't think 2020 will be any different. We'll definitely do something.
That's what's up.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on, man. That's cool. Good luck with all this.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hell yeah. Podcasts are hard, bro. I've been out.
They seem like it.
Podcasts are a commitment. The homies, I don't know if you know the homies that do the popcorn and jalapenos podcast. So it's my homie. Yeah, it's my homies Blake and Nate and these two black dudes that just love talking about movies.
I think Blake shot my graduation, so.
Oh, really? Okay. He probably did. He probably did. Yeah, they have a podcast called Popcorn and Jalapenos, and it's all just like, you know, movies and TV shows, a little bit of music here and there. But I've been on that one 3 or 4 times already. I'll be on it again tomorrow to talk The Irishman. So I've been watching The Irishman a couple times, just like I've been taking notes and shit. But they do that shit every week though. They do that. They go to like a movie once a week and they get on a podcast together and they talk about it. And it's like these fools are really committed. They're like 30 episodes deep, maybe a little bit more. And it's yeah. So good luck, bro. 'Cause, yeah. It takes commitment, man. It takes commitment. So, but this was fun. Thank you for this. Yeah. This is Armando Geneyro, and you've been listening to Denver Cyphers.
And there you have it. I want to thank Armando Geneyro again for coming on, being on episode 2 of Denver Cyphers. Make sure to check out his work on Instagram and pretty much everywhere else. He's doing some stuff as well. Look out for that book. I know I'll be checking for it. And yeah, that was episode 2. Episode 3, we're switching things up a little bit. We're moving out of the frame and we're moving on to the pen and pad. This next person you listen to, you're going to want to pay attention.